Good evening, everyone, or morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us again. Keep the flame alive. Today, I'm going to turn over the questioning to Martin Rice, and I'm going to be grilled. So if you have, we've got heaps of questions, but if you have anything that you want to add or something interesting that you want to say, write in, we'll pop it on into the interview if we can. Okay, with no further ado, Marty, welcome.
Well, thank you, Sensei. Just to further talk about the number of questions we got roughly at the moment 7 pages worth. So if we can get to them, like Sensei said, we will. I'll do my best to weave them in, and if they don't get in, then it's purely my fault. So I'll apologise in advance for that. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a question to kind of orient ourselves a little bit more with you. I know a lot of us know a bit about your background, but a question from Phil, Martin Sensei. He wants to know a little bit more about your introduction to Aikido. So when you started with your uncle, what was your family's reaction towards that? And I guess, what was it like to train with your uncle as well?
Last week when I interviewed Jack Bai Sensei, he said that he followed the man. So if Shoda goes to Tancho had to be doing karate or judo, chances are that's what he would have been doing as well. Same thing with me, I started Aikido because my uncle was teaching Aikido, and it was in the same block of land as my family home. So if he'd been doing karate or judo, I would have probably been doing that. Whether it would have continued is something else. Aikido suited my mentality, suited the kind of person I am, and as far as encouragement goes, I never got any. Thambu Sensei's encouragement was, after a few months, he gave me a dogi. My father was against me doing Aikido. My mother wanted me to improve my grades at school. So, if I ever got hurt in the dojo, the very last person, almost never, I would tell it to would be my mother. If the instructors were hard on me, and some of them were because I was the old man's nephew, I could never say it to my mother because her response would be, don't go. Stay home and study. You need to study. So that was my growing up. That was the encouragement or lack of encouragement.
Okay, so I think we'll take out the point about getting hurt. Was that something that happened often?
There's an instructor, he's very old now. He used to be Thambu Sensei's roommate back in the Yoshinkan days, old days in Yoshinkan. A few years ago, my uncle had a stroke, and I met up with Soha Sensei. And he was, I think, Nidan when I started off. He taught in a different dojo, a branch dojo, and every time he came back, I feared him. He was a monster of a man, I feared him, and he used to beat the hell out of me. And years later, at my uncle's hospital, I saw him and I said to his wife, I used to be really afraid of you. And he said, no, what do you mean? And I said, I used to be really afraid of you because you used to beat me up all the time. And he said, no, I didn't. I said, yes, you did. And I'm not complaining. I thank you for it. He put his arm around my shoulder, walked me into a corner, and he said, I never told you this, but your uncle made me do it. Every time I turned up, your uncle would say, push him around, throw him around, do whatever you want. And he said he was under instruction. So that was, but he also, I've got bad elbows, bad shoulders from, I was never taught to be a nuke, you just did it. And you fall badly, you fall hard, and that was it. It was the old straw tatami, not the rubberized versions we got now. And it was hard. It was very unforgiving.
One of the other questions that came in referenced the conversation you had last week with Payat Sensei, and that was about being an Uchideshi. So I think you've spoken a little bit about the tough training. Has training changed at all? Has the idea of an Uchideshi or a Deshi changed at all from when you started and from the old times to more modern day?
Okay, there's a misconception and pretty much a fallacy about being Uchideshi. Yeah? That there is one rule that every dojo, every school followed. Everyone was different. Everyone had all teachers had different expectations of the Uchideshi. Some were harder, some were not so hard, some were stricter. Different Uchideshi had different rules. And if you say Uchideshi, it actually means live-in student and you lived in the old days, in your teacher's dojo. But over the last 40 years in Japan, not many teachers lived in the dojo anymore. So you went and you lived in the dojo, and whose Uchideshi were you? The teacher, the head teachers, or you were the dojo's Uchideshi? It's not right or wrong, but you have to differentiate. So now, like before, every teacher makes up their own rules. People can come and stay here. I've got Uchideshi who don't live here, but they've devoted their lives here to the dojo. They may not work here, but if I pick up the phone at 3 a.m. in the morning, and they will be here. So everyone's different. I want to relate a story from Aikido Sensei. There was a dojo party, and someone asked him, Sensei, how many students do you have? And he said, 3. And everyone stopped and looked at him, and they said, you've got thousands of students all over the world, thousands. How come you say 3? And he said, there's only 3 people I know who will give up what I will give up for the art and for the dojo. Hence I got 3. That's harsh, but I think that's what an Uchideshi is. Obata Sensei would say that the Uchideshi would take on the teacher's woes, the teacher's worries, you would look after the teacher's children, because the teacher looked after you like a son or daughter. So that's what it was to be an Uchideshi. It was a family thing. And like all families, different rules. There is, the Uchideshi, which was taken to be full-time Deshi, then Soto Deshi was meant to be, literally meant outside Deshi. So you lived outside and came in. But it got also taken to mean like part-time Deshi. And I know some part-time Deshi, so-called part-time Deshi, that are more committed than some full-time Deshi in other dojos. So it varies. It really depends on the dojo, depends on the teacher. There's no right or wrong, it's what suits you.
So, do you think that you need to become a Deshi or behave like a Deshi to be any good at Aikido?
It's a really good question, yeah? Some people ask the same about doing the Senshusei course in Japan. Do you need to do that to be good at Aikido? Do you need to be a full-time student to be good at Aikido? I think it's courses for horses. Some people respond to that hard regime that Jack Rice Sensei talked about in his interview last week. I experienced some of that with my uncle in the Yoshinkan as well. Some people, that doesn't work well for them. So it's like teaching. If you have kids, you have to have different approaches for different kids. Same with Uchideshi. There has to be a different approach for different people. And if you remember, last week also, Japanese Sensei said, Kancho Sensei would ask questions about other students. And I found that to be true. I went on a trip 1 week with our branch dojo, and next week, or 2 weeks later, I went with the Honbu dojo to Kashima Jingu, which is the shrine of the god of Buddha. And one of Kancho's friends was explaining to me what the place was, and Kancho walked past and said in Japanese, don't bother explaining to him, he was here like 2 weeks ago. I thought, ooh, he knows. He knows everything about everyone. And when you know your students, then you can tailor what needs to be done for each student. And you don't have to tailor the rules, but tailor the presentation. Sometimes you do cut corners. Some people need more technical training. Some people need more maybe emotional, or I'm not going to say spiritual, but more need to toughen here. Some people need to toughen the body. If you know your student, then you can tailor the course to them to a certain point.
I think a lot of that subject matter reminds me of a question that came through. I think it was from again from Phil Sensei. How do you, as a teacher, recognise that in a student? Someone who perhaps wants to be pushed more, who wants, I guess, harder training, for want of a better word.
I think they say a good teacher, whether it's in a dojo or in a school, a good salesman, a good manager, knows your subject matter. A very good teacher and a very good salesperson, manager, knows your subject matter and knows your customer, your client, your student, whatever you want. That's the difference. If you're very good teachers, know both. They don't just know one. And if you know both, then you know how much to give your student. Then you know what they want before they want it. So over the years, I have many people come and stay in this dojo. And when they come in, I will say, your job in about 2 months' time is to know my response when someone asks me a question before I answer. But I guarantee you, I will know your response when someone talks to you before you know mine. Because I get into their head. I start to understand them. Now, as an Uchideshi or as a teacher, if you cannot understand the person in front of you, and you cannot know what the answers are going to be, how are you going to know what's going to happen on the street? How do you know how someone's going to react to you on the street when they walk up to you? It's not, I forget the word, but you're not anticipating. It's an intuition, and it's born from in the dojo.
I think that's a good segue into a question from Jay Sabri Sensei from the USA. He asked about what your thoughts are on Yoshinkan Aikido for self-defense.
Okay. Jay, you moved to the US from UK. So, sorry, my writing maybe. I forgot the question.
Okay, sorry. It does say USA. All right. What are your thoughts on Yoshinkan Aikido for self-defense? So he actually, has two parts of the question. One is aspects for a student and aspects for an instructor. There is a further question, but I think I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Right. So, very good. So, here, so let's say we do Karate Mochi Shinage Ichi, yeah? So this is how it's taught. That's the most basic of basic techniques. And while we're at it, the heart of any system is the riai. The riai is the concept behind the technique of the understanding. Now, if I stand here and I wait for my partner to pull or push my hand, I'm an idiot. I deserve what's coming. Now, you've got to understand, why would someone grab my hands? They grab my hands so I can't reach for a weapon, so I can't hit them. That's why they grab my hands, right? You don't come up and grab someone's hand like this and stand like this. I have no intent. If I grab her hand, I want to hit her. I want to stop her grabbing a weapon, I'm going to control that hand too. Yeah? Maybe I don't want to do this because I get need in the nuts and I like my nuts, so yeah, that's the feeling. So firstly, Ezuke, I'm digressing a bit, but Ezuke, everyone change your thinking, right? Karate mochi. Change that. Don't think of it as one hand take. Don't think of it as one hand grab. Think of it as one hand attack. This is me taking her hand. I can't do anything. This is me being able to do whatever I want now. I can hit her. But why would I grab her hand? If she's got a weapon, if I don't know if she's got a weapon, then I want to make sure she can't reach for that weapon and she can't hit me. So people say, oh, it's silly in Aikido, who's going to grab your hand? Man, if someone wants to stop you drawing a weapon, they're not going to grab your legs or your head, they're going to grab your hands. So there's a lot of logic and there's a lot of reasons for doing what we do. We need to experiment with that. So, this shonage, that's how it should look. This is to teach you the correct form. Now, if you think of a household budget, yeah, if we just do stuff this way every day, all day, it's like running the household budget from day to day with no savings. If we can add stuff like this, that's Shihonage, then I am building for tomorrow. I'm saving for today in doing the Kihon, but I'm also putting stuff away for the future, for the house renovation, for the holiday. And that's how we should live our life. We need to fulfill the needs for today, but also plan for tomorrow. So if someone comes to our dojo, and I'm answering your question about the teacher, someone comes to the dojo and they say, can I learn self-defense? And you go down the road to the kickboxing place. You're doing yourself and Aikido a disservice. Oh yeah, that's your challenge. Give them what they want. They want to learn self-defense, teach them self-defense. And if you can't, that's on you. Okay? I am about 58 kilos. I've worked for 5-6 years in nightclubs, doing security, a lot longer than that, doing other stuff in clubs as well. It has to work. It has to work. But more importantly, you have to work. Your Aikido is only a representation of you. So most people's idea of Aikido is when someone grabs you, okay, I'm going to do knee cudgel. I'm going to palm them there, do this and do this. Now when someone grabs me, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no clue. Grabs me, I'm thinking knee cudgel, I'll do something else. Realistically, I don't think. I just don't think. I'll do what comes. If you think of Aikido as being a series of locks or a series of throws, you're done. You're done. Aikido is how you move your body, how you think, how you feel. And it starts, it's mind, body, spirit, okay? Now, I look on Facebook, and people are slagging each other off in the Yoshinkan Aikido Fellowship. They're so rude, they're slagging each other off. There's a simple rule, you know. If, in Aikido, I don't want someone to rip my arm out and break it, then I don't do that to them. When I'm talking on Facebook, when I'm bantering with someone on Facebook, if I don't want to be rude, someone to be rude to me, then don't be rude to someone. In security, we used to say, talk to someone the way you want to be spoken to. I do techniques on someone the way I expect them to do it to me. Gradually, gradually, gradually. Not rip my hand off like that. Not that. So, in interaction, you have to treat people how you want to be treated. In training, in communication, in just natural etiquette. That answer the question? Jay, sorry if I've gone out left field, but you know, that's me. Sorry, Jay, we're going to move on.
There is an extension, but can I hit you with another question?
Yeah, sure.
An extension on that, and that is that for people who've never had to deal with a real life situation or a situation on the street, do you think people can apply Yoshinkan? I think you probably answered some of that, but also from an instructor's perspective, how can they teach that type of simulation?
Okay. Okay, Rob says to be echoey. Thanks, Rob. That's not the wine, is it? Okay. Now, go back to the question again.
Okay, so the sound is fine from John Martin. Okay, so there are two parts. Again, I think following on the theme of student and teacher. One is for people who've never had to deal with an altercation on the street, how do you apply Yoshinkan that's a student's perspective, but also from a teacher's perspective, how do you teach that or simulate that in the classroom? Dojo.
All right. So, Luke. Okay. So, sorry, please. Think about this, right? You don't come to the dojo to learn Aikido. You don't come to the dojo to practice Aikido. Come to the dojo to do Aikido. Whether it's 3 times a week, 4 times a week, come to the dojo to do Aikido. And then it becomes you. If you're just coming in to practice or to learn, when you go out there, there's no connection. If you come here to do, when you go out there, you won't try and make your Yoshinkan Aikido work. You will make yourself work because it is you. Okay, so if my partner grabs me in the dojo, I have to think of her safety. I have to think about when I practice, I don't want to hurt someone, so I make sure she can fall. I will control her. Outside, it really, if someone grabs me with intent, I'm not going to let them grab me. And I will control them, and if I can't control them, then I will do what is necessary. And while we're talking about what's necessary, there's an age-old adage, right? And it's like If it's necessary to do something, it is necessary to do it. If it's unnecessary to do something, it is unnecessary to do it. So I've had situations, right, where people have grabbed me, I've taken them down, and I've held them down. I held someone down for 45 minutes till the coppers came. My partners had my back, I was okay, I wouldn't do it otherwise, but I had that person pinned. Now, I've seen people who pin people securely and then gone and done this. In martial arts, you don't do that. That takes discipline. If it's unnecessary to do something, it is necessary not to do it. And believe it or not, I've been abused, I've been kicked, I've been hit in clubs. But the time when I lost it was when someone spat at me. So maybe that's lack of discipline on my part. So it's not about making your Yoshinkan Aikido work, it's about making you work. Okay, sorry, Florian, it's going to hurt. So someone grabs me, right? If I go boom, like that, where does the power to do that come from? If you look around my dojo, there's no bags, I don't hit bags, I don't do anything. The power comes just from training. Comes from the hips, comes from practicing Aikido. And then when you come to the dojo to do, when you take it out there, when you walk out there, it's part of you. I don't come to the dojo to train. I don't come to the dojo to practice, to learn. I come to the dojo to do. That is something that we need to change. And if we can use this coronavirus thing to do two things, one I'll talk about later, but to do this, to change our mindset, to think, I'm not going to train, I'm going to do. So if twice a week, 3 times a week, she who must be obeyed lets you out of the house, then that's your thing. 3 times a week, you go to Aikido, and you do. No matter what you feel, you do. Sorry, Jay, I don't know if that answers your question, but the next thing is to learn to join the dots, right? So if we go here, my partner grabs me, we go 1. This is the basic. 2, 3. That's the basic technique. Then we need to be able to do it or like that. So you don't wait, you enter when you're faster than your partner. You turn when you're slower. You enter when you're being pulled, you turn when you're being pushed. That's what the basic teaches us. But we need to apply it. And when do you apply it? When do you make it your own? It's when you practice after the class. When you practice after the class and you experiment, that's when you make it your own. And I've said this a million times. Sorry, stand here. Look at the angle. That's exactly 135 degrees that she turned. One more time. So, here. Exactly 135. So, when I teach and I say you turn 135 degrees, that's exactly how much you turn. It doesn't matter whether someone's tall, short, whatever. In the basic, that's what you do. That's what she did. So, when do you make it your own? When do you adjust the technique for someone bigger, smaller, faster? After the class. Because during the class, you must do what the teacher says. After the class, you play around, you experiment. Kotegashi can become, the keyboard like this. It can become faster. Or can become just that. So, if you play around and make it your own, that's when it will start to work for you. And by playing around, you start to join the dots. You join the dots between ikkajo and nikkajo, sankajo. So if you do kotegashi, and then a week later you do ikkajo, your ikkajo should be better even though you haven't practiced it, because it's all connected. And if you don't join the dots, it doesn't gel, it doesn't work. Okay? Now for the teachers, you join the dots and take it forward. That's for the student, join the dots. You need to join the dots and advance it. So I posted something of me doing a very short presentation to a group of people business people. I think there were about 1,000 people in Malaysia. Did a presentation for them based on Aikido. I've done corporate talks based on Aikido. I've taught security based on Aikido. So you're only limited by your experience and by your imagination. So put those two together. Just like joining the dots in technique, join the dots between your experience, your imagination, and where you want to go. The Aikido, the dojo, the basics are tools. They're vehicles to help you get somewhere. It's not the be-all and end-all. Right? The dojo is a promise to help you become better. But a promise is no good unless it's fulfilled. These four walls cannot fulfill the promise. These four walls make the promise, the teacher makes a promise. It's up to you to fulfill that promise yourself. And the only way you can do that is to come and do, not just train. Okay, sorry, Jay, I hijacked your question again, I apologize.
Of course.